Evening and welcome. I am here this evening because I feel like it is very vital to us to have a understanding of domestic violence in the U.S. as well as child abuse. But there's a difference between the two. Domestic violence is just any kind of a violence that is used against any human being out there. We even call domestic violence against animals. Child abuse is a different subject in itself. Child abuse has a way of bringing a child down and causing them to have issues later in life that are hard to manifest at some point in time because as a child you don't think that they are resilient enough that they can overcome it. In many cases they are resilient, and in a lot of cases children do overcome a lot of child abuse, but there are still lasting impressions. There are lasting effects that still harbor those children, both emotionally, physically, and mentally. So tonight, in our presentation, as we go through this, I would like this video to share with you some very drastic measures that the government needs to take a look at. Part of that is, where do we stand as a nation? First and foremost, will you take a stand with us? As you see here, our nation's domestic violence and child abuse will not be solved by just one individual. It will take families, it will take our entire communities and the places of worship that a lot of people do not even enter anymore or have their own feelings about. But we still need places of worship and many more coming together to help those who are vulnerable. Those vulnerable individuals are our children. It could be our grandparents. It could be our daughter, our sons. It could be our nieces and nephews. It could be your next door neighbor, for that matter. It could be your own grandchild. And with that said, I think we need to take a look at our nation, our society, and take a look at how we come together. If we don't take a stand now, when will we take a stand? As you can see on this slide, there is so much violence that it is just astronomical. It's horrendous. It is quite obvious here, as you can see, in this one spot, we have a total of 15,605 victims, which is 2.3% that are psychologically maltreated. The highest rate of child abuse in children under the age of 1 comes to 27.6%. The question is, what do we do? Then we have, on another aspect of the scale, we have 47,124 victims, which is 7% of them that are sexually abused in this nation. We also have 7,814 victims, which comes to 10.7% who are ending up physically abused. The question is, as you look at this and you think about it, what stands out in your mind? The larger amount in 2018 alone is 1,770 children who died from abuse and neglect combined. Question is when do we stop it? How do we stop it? Who's going to stop it? Another thing I need to make very clear is there's only 146,706 children who received foster care services in America, just here in the U.S. alone in 2018. Can you understand that there are only 4,111,969 victims, which measures up to 60.8% of the children in our country are just neglected alone? It doesn't count any other aspects of this. So when you look at this as a whole, What do you see? What do you feel? How does it affect your life? Or has it affected your life? What do you do to change it? What do you do to make it right? Again, almost 5 children die every day from child abuse. If they don't die and they survive it, there is lasting repercussions no matter what happens to us and no matter who it is. Again, with all this said, we need to come up with some harsher penalties. What would those penalties be? Well, my first and foremost thought here is because 71% of all child fatalities are for children younger than 3 years old. 80.3% of those child fatalities involve at least one parent. If it involves two, that means it's a tag team event, which no child deserves, ever. Child abuse just needs stopped. And as you can see from the figures below, of the children who died, 72.8% suffered neglect as well. Of the children who died, 46.1% suffered physical abuse, either exclusively or in combination with another maltreatment type. When I say maltreatment, I'm talking neglect. I'm talking not just sexual abuse. I'm talking physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. Then you talk about maltreatment types. There are psychological um, abuse as well. 46.6% of the children who die from child abuse are usually under the age of 1 for the most part. Boys had a higher child fatality rate than girls. 2.87 boys to 2.19 girls per 100,000. That's a lot of fatalities if you stop and think about it. Would you think twice before hitting a child after seeing this? How many inmates have a mental defect related to child abuse cases and are housed in the prison system? That's another important thing we have to take into consideration. In this country alone, a lot of the inmates have some type of mental incapacity. They are incompetent of understanding, or they're not incompetent, and they just have serious issues such as schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder, major depression, or brief psychotic disorders. As my research shows, for the most part, women come out at 31%, which is the highest, mainly because women are the main caretaker of children. Men are secondary on the list with only 14.5%. The reason for that is the men are usually out of the home and the men are usually taking care of building up a family, taking care of their family, and doing what is right for them. But even men have been charged at this rate at 14.5% for abusing children. And that doesn't necessarily count just sexual offenses. That includes all abuse. When do we say enough is enough? Well, in my case, I have a 8-day-old granddaughter who is abused by my daughter's boyfriend. In this regard, this is my granddaughter we're speaking of, which you'll see pictures of later in this slideshow. But in the presentation, we all have to take an effect that life is what it is. Everybody handles things differently. We have to understand sometimes people who are issued some type of medication for psychological disorders, mental disorders, emotional disorders, need to be on their medications because they need the medications given to them daily. A lot of people, such as this young man, stopped taking medications, and after 6 months of no medication in his system, we had found the domestic violence showed up. Now, before I get into this, when you go to the website at the end here, there is a link to the petition that we're offering for signatures in regards to this. And I want to make it very clear that this petition is not to hurt anybody. It is to protect everybody. It is not just so that people of child abuse and domestic violence are being singled out, so to say. It is to say we are tired of reoffenders who keep getting away with abuse and neglect to children, or to the point of we constantly are abusing one woman after the other, or women even have abused men. So, under the circumstances, in this case, the young man is accused of child abuse in the case before the local courts. He's had 3 charges for domestic violence. We only knew that from the understanding of this young man that he told me. The story is he was told he could no longer see his daughter by the mother. And he just said that she had a restraining order. Did not go into any great explanations or explicits as to why. Well, now we know. After all that would happen and all that was said between the local authorities and what we found out from the news media and one of his family members, this gentleman has already had 3 previous charges for domestic violence. And with all of that combined, along with, as you'll see in the next slide, this same young man has motor vehicular traffic violation as well, and he has no regard for the law. The way he treats the law, the way he treats people in general is quite obvious. His concept of right and wrong is messed up. So he really needs medical help. And that's what part of this petition is seeking too. But what we need to understand foremost about all of this is we cannot keep allowing people who have constantly overestimated themselves, thinking that they don't have to adhere to the law, need to understand also that under the circumstances, they have to be held accountable for their actions. In this case, as you'll see, right now I have the domestic violence is listed as 2. But here's the thing, there's a number of cases. In the current one that is now opened up, this is my daughter's right here. This one here belongs to my daughter. This one here is domestic violence that he had against his own daughter's mom and the abuse charge against her. This last one down here is the first offense he ever created. This was against his own grandmother. And the family member told us there was 4 cases in related to the one incident with him. And that situation grew and it escalated way beyond anything we could have ever begun to imagine. Under the circumstances, this case here, he got time served for 10 days. Okay? This case here, he served 5 days in jail. This one, he was arrested on the 29th of August, and he's been there ever since. I am seeking for the highest penalty I can get. In the state of Ohio, a person who has abused somebody and gets what's called a felonious assault charge. Let's go back just so you can see. I'm not going to be able to. That's okay. I can't go back. Sorry. But in that last screen, as you've seen for my daughter's case, it's a felonious assault charge against a baby, an 8-day-old baby, not a grown adult, not a 1-year-old child, not a child that's able to at least put their hands in front of their face and protect themselves. He took it upon himself to maliciously aim to hurt and disfigure a child, if you will. Because of this, I am seeking to create an abuse registry. As you know, we already have sex offenders registry. Why not create a registry for abusers? Now we're talking child abusers, as you can see, domestic violence offenders, disorderly conduct. Even though a lot of these can be reduced, such as domestic violence in one of his cases with his ex. The gentleman had a misconduct or disorderly conduct of reasonable warning. That was because originally he had a domestic offenders case. A domestic violence offenders case was reduced to this, where that he only served 5 days. Again, we have to stop allowing our system to let these people walk the streets and allow them to continue to hurt people. The question is, are you going to take a stand? Stand up with us. Take the time to just say no to abuse. I want to thank you for taking the time to hear our plea. And if you will, please sign the petition by following the link below. And all you have to do is just put it in your web browser or highlight it. I'm going to put it down at the end of my YouTube in the comment section, and you are more than welcome to just copy and paste it in. It'll take you straight to the page. And I want to thank you, and I wish you and your family the best and happiest of all days. And let's just continue to keep child abuse out of our lives. Thank you and have a blessed day.